Dear guests, dear media representatives, good evening and welcome to International Military Cooperation Department of MOD. I am Major General Hüseyin Mahmudov, head of this department. We are gathered here today at this late hour due to very urgent matter. As you know, since 27th of September, as a response to aggressive action of Armenia against Azerbaijan, Azerbaijani army has launched counter-offensive operation in order to provide safe and secure conditions for its citizens and liberate occupied territories from the aggressor. This operation is being conducted within internationally recognized borders of Azerbaijan and limited to occupied territories. Vice versa, Armenia, since the first day of this operation, has been trying to expand the geography of this battle. Our armed forces firing, first of all, firing power of the enemy, destroying their heavy equipment, their battle tanks, armored vehicles, air defense systems, multiple rocket launcher systems. Vice versa, Armenian side are targeting our civilians, our towns, our cities. Most of them are located in far away distance from the battleground. Our armed forces killing, neutralizing armed soldiers and mercenaries fighting on the side of occupiers. From other side, Armenia is targeting and killing civilians. And today, we will be focusing on situation that we have in the second largest city of Azerbaijan, Ganja, its historical and cultural center. On this matter, we are joined today with two honorable guests, advisor of the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Head of Foreign Affairs Office of Presidential Administration, Mr. Hikmet Hacıyev, and advisor of the First Vice President, Mr. Elçin Emirbayev. Our guests just arrived from Ganja, and therefore they will provide you with detailed first-hand information on situation on Ganja, and they will give assessment of these barbaric and violent actions inflicted by Armenian occupants to our cities and towns, in this case on Ganja and its population. I am sure they will touch upon also legal aspects of these actions. And before I give the floor to our guests, I would like to inform them that we have invited today defense attaches accredited in Azerbaijan, representing 15 countries, as well as representative of EU, UN, and OSCE offices in Baku, and head of ICRC office in Baku. As a last remark, during the briefing, you will see images and footage showing the destruction of Ganja as vivid proof of these barbaric actions inflicted by Armenian occupiers. Thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear military attaches accredited to Azerbaijan and dear media representatives, and good evening and glad to see everyone. With my colleague Elçin Emirbayev, we are right away from Ganja, and we have been dispatched upon the instruction of the Chief Armed Forces of Azerbaijan and President of Azerbaijan, and we reconciled on the situation on the ground and talked to the local population. As everybody knows that early in the morning, Armed Forces of Armenia launched a missile attack to the city of Ganja. Ganja is the second biggest city of Azerbaijan. First, there was absolutely no military necessity to attack the city of Ganja. Secondly, Ganja is 100 kilometers, even more, away from the theater of military operation, but taking place in the occupied territories of Azerbaijan. Thirdly, this attack, now we clearly identified, based on our radar information, launched from the sovereign territory of Armenia, from the Vardanis region of Armenia. It's an act of war by Armenia against the Republic of Azerbaijan. It's a continuation of the war imposed by Armenia on Azerbaijan. And in target selection, it was indiscriminate and deliberate military attack. I myself grown up in Ganja. I know navigation and I know all regions of Ganja very well. And this particular region of Ganja is very densely populated, is one of the very close to one of the main streets of Ganja. Here is a purpose was more than clear, to cause as much as possible casualties among the civilians, and also to cause a panic among the civilians. More than 3 residential buildings, 2 and 3 floor residential buildings, completely destroyed. And they used for this purpose Tochka-U missile. And everybody knows that it's a very destructive missile with huge potential of affecting not only target area, including the surrounding area as well. And launching such a missile to the residential area that's densely populated, there can be no other purpose except just killing civilians. We do assess it as an act of genocide. We do assess it as a military crime and war crime perpetrated by the political military leadership of Armenia against the people of Azerbaijan. It's not only the fact. Since the 4th of October, Armenian armed forces are engaged in attacking Azerbaijan's major cities with the missiles. Mainly they're using Tochka-U and Smersh missile systems. Even they use Scud missile systems, and particularly trying to attack Baku and surroundings of Baku. That Scud missile has been destroyed by S-300 air defense system of Azerbaijan. And also Mingechevir is also second biggest city of second industrial city of Azerbaijan, and especially Mingechevir electricity grid system also comes under the attack of Armenian armed forces, especially Smersh system. And yesterday, along with Ganja, Mingechevir city also again come under the fire with the Smersh missiles that have been launched against the city. Luckily, the missile that have been landed on the territory, on the perimeters of the Mingechevir power grid didn't explode and also didn't land in the close proximity of the electricity grid system. It just ended up in the garden of the area. Once again, it shows in a true face of Armenia. All of this happens also against the background of the political discourse and also Moscow meeting of the foreign ministers of 2 countries, and also against the background of humanitarian ceasefire that have been agreed between the parties. Azerbaijani side demonstrated support and also understanding for humanitarian truce. But unfortunately, in immediate aftermath of humanitarian truce, Armenian armed force engaged such an act of vandalism against the civilian population of Azerbaijan. We seriously condemn it, and we do also urge the whole international community to seriously condemn it and also put in a political diplomatic pressure on Armenia. And we also receiving different information from different sources that Armenia, by using black markets and also using civilian aircrafts, trying to bring new additional missile systems to Armenia. And recently, this missile attack has been stopped because they didn't have. Their all storage has been destroyed. So that to ensure security and safety of Azerbaijani civilians. But they are through the black markets receiving such missiles, and for that purpose, they are using humanitarian aid channels and also using civilian aircraft. It's yet another violation of the international civil aviation rules and also Chicago Convention. And Azerbaijani side once again demonstrated its support to the humanitarian truce and Moscow discussions, and also demonstrated our political willingness for the resolution of this conflict in the format of the negotiations. But unfortunately, we have seen such an attack. Our prime responsibility, along with the liberation of occupied territories of Azerbaijan, still is an important element, is ensuring safety and security of Azerbaijani civilians. Because especially along the line of contact, we have 500,000 Azerbaijanis are living. It's also clearly manifested in the military doctrine of Armenia that Azerbaijani civilians is one of the major targets for them. In 2019 or 2018, in their report, in their interview to the International Crisis Group representative, high-level representative of Armenian armed forces, admitted the fact that based on the new military doctrine of Armenia. That's an offensive, by the way. That's an aggressive military doctrine. He openly said that for us, one of the targets is Azerbaijani civilians living along the line of contact. Attacking them, we can cause casualties. We can also cause a humanitarian catastrophe in Azerbaijan. And by doing that, we can achieve our goals. Even before, with escalation of situation, the high representative of Armenian political system and also their high-level military officers openly said that they're going to attack Azerbaijan's major cities, including the critical energy infrastructure of Azerbaijan. Now we have seen clear manifestation of this offensive military doctrine and offensive military policy on the real terms, that far away from the real set of military operations, Armenian armed forces are attacking Azerbaijani civilians, including the civilians along the line of contact, Tartar, Agdam, and Fizuli, some other regions of Azerbaijan. Tartar city becomes a symbol of Azerbaijan like in Stalingrad in the Second World War. And within 1 hour, 2,000 artillery pieces landed to the city of Tartar. That's going to have a 70,000 population. Today, in a shameless manner, Armenian Minister of Defense, high-level representative, said that it hasn't been done by Armenian armed forces, meaning attack against Ganja. But who has done it then? Aliens or someone else? And we have also exact trajectory, and everybody knows it, and I'm sure that your respective countries also having the satellite capabilities, knowing who is who and who does what. And therefore we encourage and all countries to have a better view of the situation on the ground. Once again, we seriously condemn it, and we also retain our right, based on the Geneva Convention and international humanitarian law, if Azerbaijani civilians are going to be attacked, to take all necessary measures against legitimate military targets. As every and each country, it's also one of the major responsibilities for the armed forces of Azerbaijan to ensure safety and security of Azerbaijani civilians. We do also, and we are talking to the professional militaries, we are also accepting it as a fact of weakness. And soldiers should fight on the battleground, not to kill the kids, not to kill the women and elderly. And Azerbaijani people, we have seen it. We have seen it on the battle space back in 1992. Armenian armed forces engaged in killing entire population of Khojalı city. And it was one of the manifestation of the act of the genocide against Azerbaijani people. Within the night, with the armed forces of Armenia, who are still in the high position in the armed forces and intelligence service of that country, engaged in killing civilians, kids, elders, and they also do consider it as a sign of prideness. We do consider that it's not a sign of prideness. It's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of the cowardice that Armenian armed forces is engaged. Soldiers should fight once again in the battlefield, not to fight and not to bomb residential cities. Thank you, and we also via you conveying our message to all your appropriate countries, and we are also urging the countries that Armenia, there are irresponsible people in the political military system of Armenia, and also we are calling your respective countries that to look at these black channels that Armenian side may try to bring additional bunch of the rockets and missile systems to Armenia and attack Azerbaijani civilians, because it also affects the sentiments of Azerbaijani people. Because seeing that kids are being killed, seeing that women have been killed, it also affects the high sentiments of Azerbaijani people. Thank you. Madam, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending this briefing. I think much of what was supposed to be said already was said by distinguished speakers. Just a couple of points which I wanted to add. We have to understand that the Ganja attack last night was the biggest attack and the biggest incident in terms of human casualties, because we're talking about 9 civilians who lost their lives, and I think almost 20 of them who were wounded, and much more families were left without their apartments or places to live. Among those who were killed while sleeping were children, and I think that this is an outrageous war crime, as it was mentioned, and has to be qualified as such by the international community. From the very start of this latest escalation, 27th of September, the Armenian armed forces has targeted civilian infrastructure, civilian population as the major target for their attacks, which means that their main goal was to provoke Azerbaijan for a retaliation, to extend the scope of the conflict, not only geographically, but also in terms of involvement of some other parties. And that is why this is something which needs to be condemned, not only by those countries who are directly involved in the mediation effort, but also by a broader international community. Azerbaijan has shown its goodwill and has accepted the good services provided by Russian Federation as one of the co-chairs of the Minsk group to participate in three-party talks at the level of foreign ministers in Moscow. And of course, we were satisfied that there was an outcome of these lengthy discussions, and we were hoping that the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Armenia participating and approving this text would change in fact the behavior of Armenia, and that they would refrain from continuing their illegal military aggression against Azerbaijan and would go back to the negotiation table. But unfortunately, what we have witnessed ever since the entry of the force into force of this humanitarian truce, the Armenian armed forces continue to violate this truce in many directions, in the northern part, Terteralera, but also in the southern part, in the Fizuli Jabrail, and this night, last night, Ganja and Mingechevir, as it was mentioned, were attacked. So I think that this clearly shows the real intention of the Armenian government. They are in no way are showing any signs of returning to peaceful track, and I think this behavior of Armenia should be assessed and I think identified as such. And if I may, tomorrow I think we will be organizing a trip to Ganja and to Mingechevir for the diplomatic corps accredited in Azerbaijan, but also for the defense attaches. So you are kindly invited to join this opportunity in order to be able to watch what has happened with your own eyes. But now I think that we will be more than happy to entertain your questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Just one element I wanted to add. While launching these missile attacks from the sovereign territory of Armenia against Azerbaijan, we know it. Armenia is also doing it for certain political military purposes. First, for the military purposes, by launching such an attack against Azerbaijan, Armenia tries to make its own sovereign territory as an area for legitimate military attack. For political reasons, of course, Armenia tries to bring this issue to the agenda of the CSTO and to bring it under the responsibility of CSTO. First, with CSTO member countries, Azerbaijan have a very close partnership relations, almost in all member countries except Armenia. And we also know that our CSTO member countries and our partners on a bilateral basis having a better understanding and better knowledge of the situation. We also call the CSTO member countries and to put pressure on Armenia to refrain from such military adventures and provocations. And it's also a very dangerous game to undermining wider regional peace and security. We also, referring to the particular treaty that constitutes the cornerstone of the legal framework of CSTO, one of the major articles says that CSTO member countries should refrain from the use of force or threat of force against other countries. By this understanding, we are also calling the CSTO member countries to put in a pressure on Armenia and to fulfill its obligations under the respective law, respective treaties within this organization, and also not to misuse its own membership and not to misuse its own membership for the purposes of military adventure. As we always said that we don't have any military objectives in the sovereign territory of Armenia. Azerbaijan armed forces are operating within the limits of Azerbaijan's sovereign territory that has been recognized by all international community, including your respective countries. We are also supporting humanitarian truce that has been agreed in Moscow with the mediation of Russian Federation that we also appreciate. But the signs that we have seen from Armenian side, we do assess it as a sign of disrespect to the mediation efforts of Russia and also all co-chair countries and also for the international community. We have agreed and there should be respect to such an agreement. And yesterday we have also witnessed yet another fact. In Matagi's direction, Azerbaijan armed forces were engaged in collecting the bodies of Armenian soldiers so as to ensure the exchange of these bodies. And they also come under the attack from the mine launchers. Once again shows the true intentions of Armenian side, and by this opportunity we also wanted to communicate your respective countries and calling also for your understanding and sympathy. Thank you very much for this opportunity. If you have any questions, as my colleague said, we'll be more than glad to answer. I know that our military colleagues always try to reframe their questions, and they would prefer to listening, and therefore, from our side, we try to provide, as much as information possible. Just technical details for our tomorrow's visit, and Minister of Foreign Affairs will provide a diplomatic note as a matter of urgency to all your respective embassies. We are inviting ambassadors and heads of the delegations, and also representatives or heads of the international organizations. As it's also a military matter, we are also asking the military attachés at your convenience to join this visit. And so that with your own eyes you can see the Armenians' attacks on Ganja city of Azerbaijan, and we'll also try to provide more comprehensive information on the spot. And while being on the ground, it's going to be much better. And also 3 major attack points that have been under the missile attack of Armenian side in Ganja city. And also we will try to take you, if time allows, to Mingechevir city of Azerbaijan. It's also one of the major electricity grid system that provides more than 30 or 40% of Azerbaijan's electricity. And also Mingechevir water reservoir that Armenian side also tries to attack. So far it's unsuccessful. But with critical infrastructure, and their attacks and their intentions can also be seen in an open manner while being on the spot. And if you can join, of course we will appreciate, and all necessary security will be provided from our side, and also the buses will be available tomorrow in front of the Foreign Ministry.
Look at timing.
Protocol department is currently trying to schedule the program. Initially it's a 7:30 departure from in front of the Foreign Ministry, and I myself and also my colleague Rövşən Məmmədov and General Hüseynov, we also kindly ask you to join us, and we'll also try to provide ANAMA representative, Azərbaycan National Agency for Mine Action, because they have been engaged in disposing and neutralizing with missiles. They can also provide all technical characteristics.